Hey folks, how's it going? Really excited to talk to you about the Mythic Plus build you're looking at front and center. Now, Holy Pals did take some pretty substantial changes here. In particular with 9.1, our damage got nerfed into the ground, like an 8% reduction across the board. We've seen Judgment, we've seen Hammer of Wrath receive 10% damage reductions. Like, Blizz has had enough of us and our Shockedin ways, apparently. But don't worry, all's not lost. Gameplay's not changing, just our throughput's been reduced on the damage side. As far as healing goes, we're still the powerhouse big nuke healer that we always have been, tank's best friend. So let's jump into it with respect to these talents you're looking at right now. Now, right off the hop, Crusader's Might, it's really a superior holy power generator. Um, it's a little mana intensive on the row, but it really facilitates that higher damage output through Mythic Plus dungeons. Now, what I will say, we have seen a little bit of a change here. It's uh, it's actually going to change the reduction of the cooldown on Holy Shock by 1 second instead of 1.5. So brace for that. We'll see how that plays out in the next little bit. Tier 2, Saved by the Light, it has a great synergy with Beacon of Virtue. Basically, the shield can proc on any player that dips below 30% health. Holy Prism is another choice you can consider if it's more of a preference. I like Saved by the Light. It's one less thing I need to think about. It's a great passive ability. If you're not playing with like a Beacon of Virtue, though, however, um, it offers basically on-demand AoE healing. So definitely attractive that way. Tier 3 just kind of comes down to where you are. Blinding Light, it's basically like a mass interrupt. So get some mobs together. Soon as they're immune to an interrupt, knock them out. You'll be as popular as a druid with Solar Beam. Tier 4, there's a little bit of play here. So, like, Rule of Law is useful for Beacon of Virtue, basically stretches your range. Cavalier helps your mobility, basically lets you clean up your footing a little bit. I play with Unbreakable Spirit a little bit just because I like the cooldown reduction on Lay on Hands. Because I'm not taking my Lay on Hands to the grave with me. I use that as often as I possibly can. Now, Tier 5, a little different. Divine Purpose is really, it's just an all around steady talent. Like, since we're able to take advantage of this back in Legion days, it's been a ton of fun. And basically using it and having some procs that come from Shield of Righteous, which is really uncapped AoE damage. It's a pretty solid way to play. Holy Avenger could use a little bit of pairing with Avenging Wrath if you want to do some massive AoE burst damage with Shield of the Righteous. Um, but honestly, if you're an experienced Holy Paladin, Divine Purpose will treat you really well. Maybe if you're specifically looking at burst windows and lining up with the rest of your group, stacking Holy Avenger and Avenging Wrath are the way to go. Now, Tier 6 has been really kind of fun. Awakening has really kind of just knocked out the throughput options here elsewhere on the tier. So, really having Word of Glory and Light of Dawn, having a 15% chance to give you Avenging Wrath, eh, kind of speaks for itself. Anytime you can get an extra set of wings, you're laughing. Finally, Tier 7, Glimmer of Light is potent. Beacon of Virtue, it's pretty good for like group wide or if you're looking to burst heal. Rule of Law, like we mentioned earlier, kind of has a good relationship with Beacon of Virtue. But for me personally, like Beacon of Faith is the first and foremost preference that I'll go with. Um, Really, if you're starting off with new dungeon content, however, like Glimmer is definitely a solid choice. If you're Curian like me and you swap to Beacon of Virtue, um, definitely might be something to consider just reverting back to the Glimmer build. Now, as far as Covenants go, I'd mentioned it earlier, Venthyr with Ashen Hollow, is actually just going to be a meter topper. If you're looking to min-max, that's where you want to go. Kyrian is probably the next best, and Divine Toll really just has a ton of utility. It's super engaging. It kind of complements a few different legendaries here that we'll talk about in a moment. Um, Really, the most notable legendary you want to get after is Shock Barrier, and that's again why Divine Toll is so attractive. Load up on that. Inflorescence of the Sunwell, Shadowbreaker. There's a couple solid plays. All right. Now, as far as what you want to consider, just try to prioritize if you're completely new to the spec. Your intellect is going to be obviously your big go-to, so whenever you get an eye level increase, you usually want to take it. The secondary stats you want to prioritize, it's going to be haste, mass, verse, and crit. So definitely load up on that. Um, it's super satisfying. Holy's in a great spot. I know we're all a little bummed about this big damage nerf that came through, but overall, we're having a ton of fun. Tell me what you think about my DMOG. Thanks for checking it out, and I'll talk to y'all soon. Later.